I thought long and hard about what my next video should be, what the world didn't have enough of, and then it came to me as though I was a prophet receiving his divine ordinance.
Skyrim!
There's this little indie darling made by one man that needs the publicity, and that darling is the barely discussed Skyrim, the fifth in the Elder Scrolls franchise. Okay, so sarcasm aside, I need to come clean about the making of this video before we get started. So I had originally gone off the memory of previous playthroughs and then wrote this script and recorded it, and then I played through the game after the fact to get all the footage. Once I had finished the main quest line, I realized that there was so much more in this game that my loose recollection just did not afford me. So I am completely redoing this. I had to completely rewrite the script, and I'm re-recording it now. This video was originally going to be like 30 minutes long or so, but now I honestly have no idea how long this is going to be, so strap in. I'm just doing what's going on. So during my playthrough of collecting footage, I realized that playing this game again, that the quests aren't actually fun, which is kind of weird to say. Overall, the quest lines are boring and flat, and I mean just like the quest lines, just the quests that you're given through the major factions and stuff, because that's mostly what I'm going to be talking about here, is the major quest lines, the major factions. There are really no surprises with them, no serious twists or turns. There are some cool moments here and there, but overall, in the base game at least, the quote-unquote story for the major factions are boring. Part of this stems from there not really being many characters. At best, their NPCs are flat, and at worst, they are just steps in a quest. They're stepping stones to go to the next place to kill the next thing. The quests themselves are also boiled down to more or less the same steps. Go to a place, kill some stuff / get a thing, and come back and collect your reward, which is incredibly simplistic, and also how I organized my first D&D campaign at 13. So sometimes the place you go to is more interesting than others, but the repetition is so hard to see past once you noticed it. This is my 5th or 6th playthrough of Skyrim at this point, like full playthrough, and I was constantly thinking, why do I not enjoy this as much as I did the first time I played it? And I think it's because the wonder and the fun of this game rely so heavily on the exploration of its magnificent, amazing world, with all these new sights to see and people to talk to and lore to discover. Once you find those sights, the luster is lost entirely. You can't recreate that on a second playthrough. With that out of the way, let's kind of get started into the specifics.
Hey,
Oh, you're finally awake. So the beginning of Skyrim is absurdly recognizable and a staple of gaming as a whole, but it's also so fucking boring. It's so slow and boring, and it's all, you must have been caught up in that Imperial ambush, and what village are you from, horse thief? A Nord's last thoughts should be of home, and who are you? If you've never played Skyrim before, then first of all, how Todd Howard is knocking at your door right now to find out how this statistical anomaly of you not playing Skyrim happened. But if you're normal like the rest of us, then I guarantee that you wish as much as anyone to be able to skip this part. It's tedious even the first time you play it, and I've again played it 6 times just on full playthroughs, and it's too much. It's so much. Anyways, I created my character, a serious, respectable, honorable Orsimer, whom I lovingly named. Right as your head is going to the block, Alduin, the World Eater, interrupts to save literally the only person that could kill him. At this point, you just kind of got to run around and wait for your first major choice to happen after the dragon attack, which is, do you go with the Imperials or the Stonecloaks? This is pretty much the only choice you will make in this game. Everything else in this game is entirely linear. This is the only deviating storyline, really, except for one kind of hidden thing. This is the intro to the Civil War questline that I will be getting into later. I promise this time this isn't going to be like the last video where I say I'll get into something later and then don't. I'll actually get into it. The tutorial dungeon is incredibly straightforward, as most of the dungeons are, with a few exceptions. Black Reach. And as you fight your way through, you emerge the other side, free to do as you like. For the sake of this video, I go straight to Riverwood and do a good portion of the main questline first. Also, kind of a side note, I'm playing on an easier difficulty for the sake of the footage, and I'm also going to mostly be doing a fighter build, again for the footage's sake. It's not as complicated a build as, say, a wizard, who you have to balance your magic and stuff like that. The main quest is very simple. The Alduin, the World Eater, has returned, and you're the Dragonborn, or Dovahkiin if you're feeling a little spicy, and you have to make sure the world doesn't get eaten. Easy enough. It's straight to the point and linear. From Riverwood, you get sent to Whiterun, where you warn the Jarl, who's basically like the king of the city. The dragons are here, and he sends you to get the Dragonstone to help with some nondescript dragon research. Just kind of go get this. It's a fetch quest. It's exactly what it is. It's your first fetch quest. You'll be doing many of these. After doing so, you're tasked to kill a dragon, where, upon defeating it, you discover your draconic blood. You absorb its soul, and now you're like, oh, I can shout. So you're called by the Greybeards to High Hrothgar. After that, kind of on your way back, there's like the Greybeards are basically old hermit wizards that live on Skyrim's tallest mountain up here in High Hrothgar. You give them a visit, they teach you about shouts, which is the new dragon magic that wasn't in any of the other Elder Scrolls games. Now that you have that power, you need to prove yourself to go get this horn or whatever. But wait, you get there, and it's gone. There's a note, and it says, ooh, what's this? Hot singles in my area, and they want to meet me? Really? Well, okay. So I go to Riverwood, where it tells me to, and, oh, it's Delphine, the innkeep. Okay. Except she's not really an innkeep, she's actually a member of the Blades. For those that don't know, the Blades used to be an elite group of warriors that served as a personal guard and muscle to the Emperor himself, but if you've played the first 10 minutes of Oblivion, you know how good they are at their job. It's not. After the war with the Thalmor, parts of the peace treaty, also known as the White Gold Concordat, there we go, it called for the disbandment of the Blades. Yeah, I said that right. Idiot boy, come on. Idiot boy. Due to them being basically just a real nuisance during the war, so the Empire had to break them apart, and those that didn't lay down their weapons were hunted down and killed by the Thalmor. On top of being the guard, like the personal guard for the Emperor, they also hunted dragons, but they haven't done that in a while because dragons have been extinct for like 4 eras or whatever. So now that the dragons are back, you are stuck with Chucklefuck. I call Delphine that because she is the worst. She is so blinded by her hatred by the Thalmor, which, don't get me wrong, it's justified. The Thalmor are the real villains of the Elder Scrolls at this point. I don't know that I'd go that far, because they're new, but if I had to put money on it, the Thalmor are probably going to be the main antagonists of Elder Scrolls 6. But because of this hatred, she makes us do what amount to basically pointless steps in the quest, just because of the fact that she doesn't like them. She distrusts them. Diplomatic Immunity is the ultimate proof of this, which is unfortunate because it's one of the better quests in the questline. This quest comes right after we see Alduin resurrect a dragon and fight it and kill it, and she asserts that the Thalmor must be behind this, and that you have to find out. And in the end, turns out that they are just as confused as we are. Oh no, who would have guessed? Alduin, the World Eater, working with some elves? Yeah, that makes sense, Delphine, sure. Narratively, there's no rational reason besides the fact that Delphine is crazy. She just doesn't like the Thalmor, so therefore it's an ultimate fallacy. It makes no sense. Like I said, Diplomatic Immunity is one of my favorite missions in this game, just because it's not a dungeon crawl, which is a welcomed break from the thousands of other dungeon crawls in this game. It's you're put into like a nice like little social scenario where you have to distract a party and get into the back room. You can choose to like sneak through. If you're a high elf, I didn't do this because I was playing an orc, but if you're a high elf and you dress as a Thalmor, then they'll just let you walk in and they won't attack you at all, but only if you're a high elf, which I thought was really cool. And it's one of the few things where if you are a specific race, you get to play it differently, which is a very interesting roleplay thing in a game that doesn't have any real interesting roleplay stuff, which I thought is cool. Unfortunately, I had to murder my way through to get the information that I needed. The best thing that I could equate it to is if you're playing a tabletop game, it is a heavy roleplay session after being a murder hobo for basically the entire campaign up to this point. It breaks up the structure really nicely, and I wish that the game had more quests like this. Back to Delphine, though. She doesn't really help out too much at all, except for getting Esbern, who actually helps. We are eventually tasked with fighting our way through the Rat Way in Riften to find this old Blades member who knows much more about dragons than Shidiot over here. He is a big contributor to forming the plan that ultimately kills Alduin, spoiler alert. Being useless is not really the reason that I truly dislike Delphine, though. She commits a cardinal sin that is entirely inexcusable in every way, and to explain it, I have to kind of shift over to the Greybeards. So, the Greybeards guide the player a good bit through the main quest. They are even mediaries for a temporary armistice in the Civil War, so if you haven't played that one yet, they basically put the Civil War on pause until Alduin is dealt with. After a good bit, you are finally led onto the true top of the mountain to meet the leader of the Greybeards, a dragon by the name of Parthenax. Party Snacks is one of the most interesting characters in the entire game, and he's voiced by everyone's favorite red Italian working-class man.
Hello, Mario.
Being one of the original dragons, he realized that under Alduin's reign, what they were doing was wrong. You know, the enslaving and subjugation of mortals, so he gave them the voice and helped them break free from their binds, which is cool, it's interesting. He taught them how to use the voice, produce dragon shouts, and this is what led to Alduin's original defeat. He was instrumental in the continuing of the world, essentially. He's also instrumental in bringing down Alduin the second time. He talks through the player. Some of his conversations are some of the only conversations that in this playthrough I sat down and actually really listened to, because what he says is very interesting. It's weird, philosophical semi-nonsense, but it's all good to listen to, and it makes me actually kind of think about not only my place in the game, but also my place outside of the game.
Yes, they are very protective of me, Bahlan Fadon. But I do not know the Thum you seek, Croesus. It cannot be known to me. Your kind, Jor, mortals, created it as a weapon against the Dove, the dragons. Our Hadrime, our minds, cannot even comprehend its concepts. Drem, all in good time. First, a question for you. Why do you want to learn this Thum? Prusa, as good a reason as any. There are many who feel as you do, although not all. Some would say that all things must end, so that the next can come to pass. Perhaps this world is simply the egg of the next Kalpa, Lin Vokin. Would you stop the next world from being born? Paz, a fair answer. Rofus, maybe you only balance the forces that work to quicken the end of this world. Even we who ride the currents of time cannot see past time's end. Wulsetid los trahodis. Those who try to hasten the end may delay it. Those who work to delay the end may bring it closer. But you have indulged my weakness for speech long enough. Croesus, now I will answer your question.
There's a very strong moral compass to Parthenax that is very interesting, and a thimbleful of depth that is not present really anywhere else in the game, and I can't stress enough how much I love Parthenax as a character, especially in the context of Skyrim. And Delphine basically forces me to kill her. I have never done it, and I never will. It's just not something that the blades are not worth it, and if anything, I wish that I could kill Delphine instead of Parthenax, plain and simple. Especially locking off an entire questline behind killing an NPC that is actually really enjoyable. Fuck off. No. Going back to Alduin's original defeat though, kind of backpedaling a little bit. The heroes who bested Alduin beforehand did so with a combo of two things. Numero uno, a new shout that they invented and had since been lost to time, and number B, an Elder Scroll. You know, the thing that the franchise is named after. By using the shout, they're able to force Alduin to the ground, and with the Elder Scroll, send him adrift in time. That's why he's here now, because they just kind of said, humanity will deal with this later, for now, we're good. We used the same Elder Scroll at the spot where the battle took place in order to see the moment that this happened, and we learned the shout that brought him to the ground. This involves going through a Dwemer ruin, briefly going through Blackreach, which, aesthetically is the most beautiful place in the game, one of the most annoying to navigate. It's not fun. Once we see that event take place, and we learn the new shout, Alduin comes and he's like, "Oh, you think you can? You think so?" And we're like, "Come at me, Alduin." So naturally we fight, and it's one of those fights where like you win but you don't, because they're like, "Haha, my health bar isn't actually that small," and then they leave. So that happens, and then Parthenax is like, "Hey, good job, bro. You did it." Once that happens, we're like, okay, time to take the fight to him, because we know that we can beat him, because we kind of did right now. But we can't, because Alduin's in Sovereign Guard, or White Person Heaven, as I like to call it, regaining his strength. So we need to get to Sovereign Guard, but, we can't just die, because that'd be bad. Then the game would be over. So we need to find a way to get there. So let's kidnap a dragon, shall we? I think that's a good idea, kidnapping a dragon. So in Whiterun, the first major city that you'll likely encounter, the Jarl lives in a place called Dragon's Reach. It's an ancient castle on top of the hill in the Cloud District, which, yes, Nazim, don't fucking ask me, I do go to the Cloud District often. It was built for a double purpose, one of being a palace, and two, capturing and holding a dragon? I don't know anything about architecture, so I mean, sure, sounds legit. So basically, you come out, you call one of Alduin's people, and you could basically are like, hey bitch, come fight me. And he does, because he's prideful, like all dragons. You capture him in the trap, and then you use him to fly into the mountains where no one else can reach, apparently. This is the only time that you can come to this place, is by doing this. It's a fairly long dungeon, basically. It's a long dungeon with a dragon priest at the end, who is basically just like a strong mage, essentially, with really nice masks that give you a lot of stuff. You beat the shit out of him, and then you go to Sovereign Guard. This place is freaky, with a bunch of statues that always look at you no matter what. Yeah, you go through, you find the heroes that killed quote unquote Alduin before. They help you, and then it's basically just another dragon fight. That's really all it is. There's not anything like super unique about it. He doesn't have an alternate form or anything special. He's just another dragon fight, and you just beat him until he dies. Kind of underwhelming, if I'm being totally honest. So you finish the main quest. What now? You just saved the world from being eaten. You're the hero of all of Tamriel, all of Nirn, because that's the name of the planet, I think. So what do you do? I'll tell you what you do. You take a step down, and you save just Skyrim from itself. The Civil War questline is not as fleshed out or complete as I would have liked, and if the mod community on the Nexus has anything to go off of, then I'm not the only one that thinks that way. Originally, there was going to be a ton more, with a major battle in every hold that actually still has like voice lines and animations and is very easily modded into the game, but it didn't make the final version, and I'm not making a mod review, so I had to play it vanilla, which kind of sucks. As it is now, there are only 2 battles that you would participate. Yes, 2 battles for the entire Civil War questline. That is the Battle of Whiterun, no matter what, and the Battle of Solitude or Windhelm, depending on which faction you choose. I picked the Empire, and allow me to explain why. I'm going to kind of just nerd out for a second and talk about, like, lore for a minute here. So, the reason I chose the Empire is basically Ulfric is kind of a fool.
Foolish boy.
Allow me to break it down a bit. So, Ulfric is in hot water for killing the High King of Skyrim, Elisif's husband, who is the current Jarl of Solitude. Now, Ulfric did a big no-no right off the bat by challenging to a duel and then shouting him to death, which, although it doesn't technically break the rules, you're not really allowed to like use magic in those duels. Like, if you go to the companions and they're like, fight me like a Nord, you know, it's a Nordic ritual, you gotta fight with a weapon, and he just basically shouted him to death, which is a bad thing. There's no honor in it. It's also debatable if the duel and subsequent war that followed it actually had to happen. So the reason Ulfric did any of this in the first place is because he's upset with the Empire banning the worship of Talos, who is a Nord that ascended to the status of a divine. The Thalmor are bad, basically elf Nazis, and they did win the war and had a bigger say at the negotiating table. So when they banned the worship of Talos, it's something that kind of had to be enforced, otherwise, you know, the Empire would be destroyed. So the previous High King was not a big fan of that either. Honestly, if Ulfric had come to him and been like, here's my issues with it, the High King probably would have listened, and there's a very real possibility that a civil war wouldn't have really broken out, but a compromise could have been reached. Granted, Ulfric is a warrior, he's not a man of words, so I could understand why that didn't come up, but he's also a Jarl. He shouldn't, you know, there's other ways to get things done besides killing people. On top of that, it's also very heavily implied that the Thalmor are rooting for and funding the Stormcloaks in order to keep the Empire busy. Tullius outright admits that more troops can't be expended to Skyrim because they need to focus on keeping Cyrodiil, which is the capital of the Empire, garrisoned, basically prepping for round 2.
Most of the Legion is tied down on the border with the Altmeri Dominion. The Emperor can't afford to risk weakening Cyrodiil's defenses. From the Imperial City, our war here is just a sideshow, an interlude before the main event against the Thalmor resumes.
The reason the Thalmor are in Helgen at the very beginning of the game is to prevent Ulfric's execution and to keep the war going. With this in mind, I can't side with the Stormcloaks. It's a faction that is already frankly racist and shitty. And yes, the Stormcloaks are racist. That is not a thing that is like super debatable. It is fact. I mean, a majority of the rhetoric is for retaking the Nordic homeland, and just look at the opening encounter in Windhelm.
You eat our food, you pollute our city with your stink, and you refuse to help the Stormcloaks.
But we haven't taken a side because it's not our fight.
Hey, maybe the reason these Greyskins don't help in the war is because they're Imperial spies.
Imperial spies? You can't be serious.
Maybe we'll pay you a bit.
Oh, pardon me. Was I in your way?
We got ways of finding out what you really are.
Do you hate the Dark Elves? Are you here to bully us and tell us to leave? You've come to the wrong city then. Windhelm's a haven of prejudice and narrow thinking, unworthy of one such as you. Nothing new there. Most of the Nords living in Windhelm don't care much for us, but Rolf is the worst by far. He likes to get drunk and walk around the Grey Quarter yelling insults at us in the small hours of the morning. Oh, a real charmer, that one. Some of these Nords will come up with any excuse to despise us. And it isn't just the Dark Elves they hate. They make a target of the Argonians as well. In fact, Just about anyone who isn't a Nord is fair game for their bullying.
Overall, the plot is mostly the same for the both sides, though. You go to a camp, you clear out some forts, and you do it again. Very early on, you stop to get an old crown to like legitimize your side, and the 2 battles, and that's the only break from clearing forts. The battles are interesting in that they're just waves of enemies that you either have to wait out in Whiterun or push through, in my case, Windhelm. The end of the quest will lead you to the head of the opposing faction, where you will murder the hell out of them. For me, Tullius gave a quick speech and kind of explained a little bit more of the situation in Cyrodiil, which I thought was very interesting. I honestly do not remember what the end of the Stormcloak thing is. I haven't done that in years, and I don't intend to go back to do it, so, you know, you get Empire for this one. This is why it's an okay look. Yeah, overall, the Civil War is just underwhelming, especially with the knowledge that it could have been so much more. Speaking of underwhelming, let's get to the other various factions and the quests that go with them. In these sections, we're going to be covering the Mages College, the Thieves Guild, the Companions, Dark Brotherhood, and the Bards College. Now, some of these are pretty cool, but honestly, basically all of them miss the mark by a good few miles narratively, I think. The worst of these, in my onion, is the Bards College. So, okay. The Bards College isn't like so much like a big faction that has a long storyline. It is basically a small faction that gives you speech trainers, so people that can train you and give you more experience in your speech skills. The reason I'm including them here, despite not being like a big faction or anything, is because when I first played, I'm like, oh shit, there's a Bards College? I want to be a bard? That sounds awesome. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, like, maybe I can start playing instruments because I can like pick them all up, so that'd be cool, right? No, you can't do anything like that. You can't like... It's basically just like a source of lore books, and there's like a ton in here, and speech trainers. The single quest that this quest line... I hesitate to call it a quest line. No, there's technically 2 quests, so yeah, it is a line. But basically, you go to a dungeon, you find a poem, you leave. The poem is needed to like keep this annual event going. The poem has a bunch of like spots blanked out, so we make stuff up and then we read it to the court. They like it, and then we make that annual event a weekly event because they liked it so much. And that's it. And you don't get any special bard stuff. Let me roleplay as a bard. Bethesda, is that so much to ask for? I feel like that, come on, I want to be a bard. I like speccing in high charisma characters, and that's frankly just difficult to do in Skyrim, and I think that it is it's a missed opportunity. My disappointment is tangible, and my day is ruined every time I think of the Bards College. Also scraping the bottom of the barrel is very much, unfortunately, the Mages College. The College of Winterhold is super predictable in its structure, and it tries to have a twist, but the first time I talked to, what the fuck is his name? Arntino, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's like Arntino, the Thalmor guy. I knew he was going to be a villain. The ultra-powerful wizards that can stop time, also known as the Sigic Order, also literally tell you that you're going to succeed, so there's no tension in the story at all. We start off by getting into the college, which you usually have to cast a spell for, but because I came here as a part of the main quest, I just showed up and did a shout, and they let me in and made me a student for basically no reason. I then cast one of the 2 spells, that's right, 2 spells that are required for getting through this quest. That's it. You can go through the Mages College, the College of Winterhold, entire quest line, and only cast 2 spells throughout the entire thing. It's bad. So you cast a ward as part of this lesson, and then they're like, hey, let's go explore some ruins, yo. And you're like, yeah, sure. So you go off to Sarthal, which is actually a super interesting place in lore that is not explained to you at all in this quest. It's one of the first Nord settlements in Skyrim, and it being there led to the eventual extinction of the Snow Elves. It's actually like a very pivotal place in the history, not explained. We were then told to find some magic artifacts for fun, so we go find some stuff, and then we get trapped behind this gate. This is where we have to cast our second and last spell of the quest in order to break this door. This is where we meet the first representative of the Psijic Order, which is basically just a group of mages that are super powerful, don't really interact with the world a ton, and yes, they do stop time on a whim. They do it twice, at least I think. I think it's twice. We go through a little bit more, and we find a massive artifact at the heart of this place, and we take it back to the college. We need to do some research on this thing, but there are no books, so, you know, the books aren't here. They got stolen, so gotta go get the books. So, go through another dungeon, there's a boss fight, get the books back. Yeah, and then that's it. We then have another talk with another member of the Psijic Order, who tells us to talk to the Augur of Dunlane. Augur? Yeah, it's pronounced Augur of Dunlane, who resides underneath the school. We find, quote-unquote, him, and it reveals that this artifact is called the Eye of Magnus, and we need to find an item called the Staff of Magnus, go figure. So we're sent off to do so. We go into some dwarven ruins to find some knowledge of its location, and I think it tells us where it is. I don't know, there's a weird thing with, like, these people, like these other wizards and stuff that are there. It's weird. It's kind of whatever. So, but then he's like, oh, it's at your college. What are you people doing there? And I think they're referring to the eye in that sense, but I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't come back at all. Literally doesn't matter. So we do that, we go back to the college, and then Arcano, the Thalmor guy, is like doing something to the eye, and then it kind of like explodes, and now the Archmage is dead, and they're like, you gotta get the staff. So we go get the staff, and then it takes us to a place called Labyrinthian, which is actually like kind of an interesting place. So it's a massive dungeon complex that has a ton of weird and interesting encounters within it. This includes a draconic skeleton that's actually really interesting, just like mechanically. It is one of the only, I think it's the only dragon that doesn't take flight in the game, which is pretty cool, because it's resurrected not through Alduin's means, but like through necromancy and stuff, which is pretty sick. There's also a Wisp Mother, which is a very rare and, honestly, in my opinion, underutilized enemy type. I only encountered one in my playthrough this time. There are more places that you can find them, but I didn't really go and do any of the extra stuff. So I think that they're pretty interesting. And then a Dragon Priest at the end to get to... And this is just a section of the Labyrinthian. There are more like dungeons within this area, which is cool. But this is the only one that you actually have to go through. All the while, as you're going through, you're seeing like ghosts of the previous Archmage and some dead students that he took into this complex. They all got killed because, of course, they did. And then you come back with the Staff of Magnus in hand, and Winterhold's being attacked by these things called magical anomalies, which are basically just wisps, but named differently. So we take care of that problem right quick, and then we go to confront Arcano, and we zap the orb a little bit, and then we just kick the shit out of him. We just pummel him into the ground. And now I'm the King of Wizards. And when I say King of Wizards, I mean I'm the Archmage. I was only needed to cast 2 spells. And, I mean, I did in the Dwarven Ruin, but I could have used the staff for that one. I just didn't want to go get it. My highest spell school is 17, and I'm the Archmage of Winterhold. I'm the most powerful wizard of them all. Let me show you my strongest spell. Are you ready to meet God? So just above the Mage's College, although not by much at all, is the Companions. I'll just come out and say it. I'm not a big fan of these guys. I don't like the Companions. I don't even like the idea of the Companions too much. Like, at least with the College of Winterhold, I'm like, ooh, Mage's College, you know, that's cool. Like, I'm into that. I'm not really into the Companions in that same way. First gripe with the Companions is... I'm the Dovahkiin. I killed Alduin. I saved the world. When I played this, I am also the leader of the Thieves Guild and the Archmage of Winterhold, and also a bard, I guess. So please stop calling me whelp. I can kill you with my voice in an instant. It bothers me. Second, this is also where you become a werewolf, which is not as exciting as it sounds, unfortunately. from a gameplay perspective, it's not that great. I mean, there are so many better ways to play that are just more fun and more effective, in my opinion. And it's also, are you looking for a fighter's guild? Well, too bad, you got werewolves. You don't want to turn into a werewolf? Well, I guess you can't finish this quest, get out of here until you accept this blessing, bitch. That's all you get. So we kind of start this quest on the way to Whiterun. In my first playthrough, I didn't even know that this was a thing. I totally walked past it and just got into Whiterun. Basically, on your way, you're supposed to pass a farm, and there's a giant that's, like, terrorizing it, basically, and then the companion's there, and they, like, slay it. When I was doing it this time around, I got, like, sidetracked for a second, and I totally forgot about it, so when I came here, it was already dead, so then I got scolded for not helping. Okay, yeah, good start. And then they're like, hey, you didn't raise a sword or help at all. Do you want to be a fighter in our fighters guild? Yeah, sure, I guess I'll come and join. They asked me to join, so naturally I go and I do literally everything else before I come here and do this. So once I am basically done with the game, I come in, walk into the longship, and talk to this man's who tells me he isn't the leader, but everyone does what he says. So, not the leader though. Totally. Yeah. He sends us to go collect a fragment of Uthrend, which is, right off the bat, a piece of a legendary axe that belonged to Ysgramor, the founder of the Companions, and a pivotal part in the previously mentioned extinction of the Snow Elves, kind of an important figure in history. And they just send this Joe Smo, who didn't help with the giant, to go get that piece, you know, as kind of like his test. I feel like they could have started me off with something smaller, especially since they have me do significantly smaller stuff directly after this, but go off, I guess. You know, who needs that? So I go retrieve this piece. During that, we get assaulted by this band called the Silver Hand, who are basically werewolf hunters, and they have no personality whatsoever. They're quite literally just bandits with silver weapons that are kind of cool, I guess. After we get that fragment, we're basically inducted into the Companions officially. We do a single Radiant quest, and then we are allowed to join this inner circle, which is basically like the leaders, not leaders, of the Companions. That's right, we have done 2 quests, one of which was just a random Radiant quest to join the upper echelon. Yeah. It's at this point that we're forced to become a werewolf. So I also had a glitch that was kind of cool, where the dude who was going to let me in, it just, like, I waited outside, and then he was like, wait until night, despite it very much being night. So I had to, like, go back into the house and then come back out, and then he was like, are you ready? That was weird, but yeah. Once I became a werewolf, or once I was forced to become a werewolf, we go and prove why the Silver Hand aren't really bad guys. We transform in the middle of Whiterun, and we aren't told an objective, but we have to just get out of the city. And during this time, you could kill as much as you want as you're in your werewolf form, and you won't get a bounty or any repercussion at all. You can just kill people, and that kind of goes like, werewolves are dangerous creatures, and whenever they are in a quest line, like if you come across them in a random encounter or something, they're always hostile. They are like, these are like monsters and stuff that like kill villages, and even like in the lore they're like not great. And you know, they're basically, the Silver Hand are essentially the Dawn Guard for lycanthropes. Like, they aren't bad people, and we kill a lot of them for not a lot of reason, you know. So when we come out of our transformation, we are going to murder a bunch of Silverhand. You know, Ayla's like, this is one of their hideouts, we're gonna go kill them. And we're like, okay. She's like, one of the other inner circle is scouting inside. And we're like, yeah, okay, sure, let's do this. So we go and we start killing pretty much indiscriminately. And then when we get to the main boss person, we're like, oh no, the guy who scouted for us, whose name I don't remember, he's dead. We're gonna get revenge. So we end up like killing like 2 more camps of Silverhand, and then the not leader comes to us again, and he's like, you've killed so many, like, Revenge is done. Also, I don't want to be a werewolf anymore. I want to go to Sovereign Guard. I'm a Nord first, not a... Which, okay, like, if he wanted to go to Sovereign Guard so bad, then why did he become a werewolf? Because this is a thing that you willingly have to do. So, that's all I gotta say to that one. So, we have to cure his lycanthropy. Okay, how did this happen? So, he's like, okay, there's these witches that curse the companions. It's a willing curse, first of all. There's these witches that curse the companions. Go get their heads or something. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go get their heads. So I slaughter all these witches, which is actually kind of fun. The hags are an interesting enemy to fight, because you don't fight enough mages, in my opinion. So you fight the mages, you kill them, and then you get their heads. You come back. Oh no, Not Leader is dead. Oh, what a shame. So now we can't cure his lycanthropy. So then we get the pieces of Ys Grimoire because the Silverhand attacked and they killed the guy. They killed just him, by the way. They killed just Not Leader. Nobody else is dead. It's just him. And they stole the pieces of Wuthrand. So we get those back. We kill all the rest of the Silverhand. They're done. And then we have Wuthrand reforged, and we're like, we gotta. Not Leader really wanted to be not a werewolf, so we should honor that. And we're like, he's dead though. And then they're like, well, we could just cleanse his spirit, I guess. And we're like, yeah, sure, fuck it, let's give it a shot. So we go to Ys Grimoire's tomb, which I feel like should be met with more reverence. It's Ys Grimoire. Like, there's like dozens of in-fiction books written about him, and also he's like the founder of your organization that has become your entire lives, you know? So you go through another dungeon, and then you get to Not Leader at the end of it, and he's like, oh, you gotta defeat my wolf spirit. So then the wolf spirit doesn't even fully form for me, and it's already dead. And then I put one of those heads in the fire, and then he's like, oh, I'm free. And then he goes to Sovereign Guard. And that's it. And then we're done. That's the companions. You can still do more Radiant quests if you wanted, and you can cure everyone else's lycanthropy, but except for Ayla, she likes it, I guess. But that's it. We're done. Final 2. We're almost there. Next, I think we're going to do the Dark Brotherhood. Yeah, let's do the Dark Brotherhood. Fuck it. League of Assassins, right? Filled with fools and literally clowns. So the quest starts with you stealing a contract, which is actually a very cool start to it. Of like, the Dark Brotherhood are contacted by doing this thing called the Black Sacrament, which is basically a complex ritual that you have to do where you stab a dead body over and over again, and then eventually an assassin will come and be like, oh, you want someone dead, do ya? So we hear about this kid, Aventus Arantino or something, and apparently he's performing the Black Sacrament in Windhelm. So we go there, talk to the kid, and he's like, oh, you're Dark Brotherhood. And we're like, yes, we are, definitely Dark Brotherhood. So what do? We take the contract. He wants us to kill Grenold the Kind in an orphanage in Riften. So doing so never gets a bounty, which is fantastic, because as you can see how I did it, I would get a bounty for that. After a while, so you do the quest, you get your reward. He gives you a freaking plate. It's basically a family heirloom. It's a plate. It's worth 100 gold pieces, which is nothing, because you have to sell it. So it's bad. It's a bad reward. After a little bit, you'll get a note with a handprint that says "We know" on it, and nothing else will happen until you go to sleep. Here's the problem, though. You're the Dragonborn, and there's a very real possibility that you will never sleep. So if you don't know how to get to if you refuse to look anything up and you don't know how to get to the Dark Brotherhood, there's a very real possibility that you will just never think to sleep, because I never slept really the entire time until I had to. Once you go to sleep, you will be kidnapped and taken to a abandoned shack by Astrid, who is the leader of the Dark Brotherhood. She instructs you to kill one of these tied up people, because one of them is a contract. It doesn't matter who you kill, and you never know who the contract actually was, so I just kill all 3 of them because it doesn't matter. And then after that, you're led into the Brotherhood. They give you the location of the sanctuary, and you go get your first job, which is basically just a couple of quick, shitty kills that equate to busy work. There's a beggar, a squatter, and a wife, and the only thing of value that you get from these kills is Nazir's witty commentary, which is actually kind of funny. I think I'm going to play some right now.
Brother, congratulations. You slaughtered an emaciated beggar in cold blood. You are truly an opponent to be feared. Here's your payment. Good. And I hope you were careful in that lumber mill. Those splinters and rusty nails can be quite nasty. Your payment for a job well done. Of course she is. I hear the mining business is extremely cutthroat. And those hours, they're murder. I could do this all day. Here's your payment.
On the way in, after you've killed these people, you're introduced to Cicero, who is basically like the keeper of the body of the Night Mother, who's come all the way from Cyrodiil, I think. The Night Mother is basically like the person that kind of like keeps the like Dark Brotherhood in line, basically. She's basically like a Dark Brotherhood administrator, but like a dead body. So some weird magic stuff going on there that I'm not 100% sure about. After that, you get your first real contract. You have to kill a bandit leader and a woman who ran off with her. Some like love triangle that turned out wrong or something. With me being who I am, as in the Dragonborn, that was no sweat. The hardest part about it is running out of Windhelm and not getting arrested. When we get back from that, we're told that Astrid doesn't trust Cicero because I guess he's like talking to someone in his quarters or something. So she's like, okay, we need to know who he's talking to and what he's saying. So I want you to get in the coffin with the Night Mother and just kind of like defile the corpse by jumping into a sacred spot and just like listen to what he's saying and like find out who he's talking to. So of course, because we have no agency in any of these stories, we do that. And it turns out he's just speaking to the Night Mother because he's crazy, because of course he is. You can tell that by the first time you look at him. But while we're in there, the Night Mother like speaks to us, making us what's called the Listener. So this is the 3rd quest line where we are picked by like divine providence, more or less. You know, we're the Dragonborn. We're also the one that the Sigic Order like knew would save the day, and we're also the Listener. It feels like a lot. It feels like a lot of You're the One plot lines in one game, is by especially 3 different plot lines that go off of You Are the One, and it's just too much, I think. So once we are kind of like reveal ourselves as the Listener, then nothing really changes for a minute there, and then it's kind of like, okay, go do some more kills. That's honestly, it's not more busy work kills, basically. And once we finish that, Astrid is like, hey, so you know that thing that the Night Mother told you when she like talked to you and stuff, to go talk to the specific person who's doing the Black Sacrament? I guess you could like do that, you know, because I'm in charge, so like you don't listen to the Night Mother, you listen to me, so I guess you're allowed to follow up on that. So we go to this guy, and he's like, okay, you ready for this? We want you to kill the Emperor. And we're like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do it, sounds good. But before we can kill the Emperor, we have to get him here. So how do we do that? Well, we kill his relative, and then that leads him here, I guess. I feel like if my cousin got murdered in the streets, I wouldn't go there. I feel like I'd avoid it, especially if that place is an active war zone. Just saying. But that's not how this works, apparently. So this is actually kind of an interesting quest that you have to do. Basically, you gotta kill this royalty woman on her wedding day, and you have a couple of ways to do it. You can shoot her from afar, bash her with a cursed mace, or drop this large stone on her. But whatever you decide, you have to make a mad dash out of the city, which can be fun sometimes. When you get back, Cicero apparently went insane and stabbed some bitches, so now we have to go take care of him, apparently. We follow him to another sanctuary that is literally within sight of Dawnstar. Like, I can see Dawnstar from standing right in front of the sanctuary, but, you know, it's secret, so yeah, and we're definitely not going to come back here at any other part of the story that's not foreshadowing at all. We fight our way through the place before we eventually come to Cicero, who's sitting there bleeding out, and we actually, I lied before, this is the second choice that we can have throughout this entire game, is if you choose to kill or spare him. I spare him because it has a very minor thing that you get later, like after kind of things start wrapping up, but it's really a non-choice. It doesn't really matter too much. For going back and telling Astrid that we murdered Cicero, we get to keep Shadowmere, which is the only horse in the game that I will ever use. So horses are a thing that I haven't talked about because they're bad, and I don't use them because they're bad. So they have this really cool thing where they're super aggressive and will attack anything that aggroes onto you, but they don't have a lot of hit points or DPS, so when they start getting into the mix, they die almost immediately. So Shadowmere is cool because they can't die, or at least they have enough hit points to not die immediately, so having them around isn't a issue that is something that you have to deal with constantly. But back on the Emperor killing duties. Now we gotta kill the Emperor. So how do we do this? Well, there's this anonymous chef that is supposed to be... Of course they're anonymous, but there's this anonymous chef that's supposed to be cooking for the Emperor pretty soon. So we gotta off him, and then we become the chef. That's right. I'm Gordon Ramsay's. Call me garbage stink guy, because like Guy Fieri or something. I don't know. I'm so tired. So now I am the gourmet. It is me. I have assumed gourmet position because I just killed that fool, and also a few others to get to him, but that doesn't matter. Now that I'm the gourmet, I can go and make this stew, and ooh man, it's delicious. Chef's kiss. So now that we served it to the Emperor, he drops dead on the spot just immediately. Just bam, we got him. So, you know, no mission failed. We got him this time. But oh no, we leave, and turns out that was a fake Emperor, and I was set up, of course. Didn't see that one coming. So now that we got set up, we need to go and, like, they're burning the sanctuary now, so we need to take care of that. And then I just imagine, like, the Dragonborn is just so tired, you know? Like, they save the world, and then they're just quite literally putting out so many fires all the time. So we go save what remains of the Dark Brotherhood, and then Astrid, it turns out she's the one that, like, yeah, the paranoid leader, turns out she's the one that turned me in, and then they, like, came and doubled back and betrayed her, because of course they did. So, you know, of course I want revenge, because, like, she sold me out, but then she's like, please kill me. So then we're like, well, then that takes all the fun out of it. So you kill her. Oh man, I wonder if you can hear the sounds of the bathroom in the background. So they kill her, and then I talk to the Night Mother again, and she's like, bitch, you better finish what you started. And okay, yeah, I guess I'll still kill the Emperor. So we honor the contract, and he's in a boat right outside of Solitude. So we go there, and I start sneaking my way through, and then I'm like, wait, I'm unstoppable. So then I just fucking wreck everyone. Just no bodies left, just completely demolish them. And then I go to confront the Emperor, and he's standing there, and he, like, talks to me, and he's like, promise me that you'll kill whoever did this to me. And he just kind of, like, accepts it, which is kind of cool, actually. Like, everyone else has been like, oh, the Dark Brotherhood, you're gonna kill me. And he's just like, ah, yes, it was destined for me to die by your blade. emperors and assassins, old enemies. So I definitely don't botch it, and I get him first try, and he's dead. And then I fulfill his last wish, and I kill the guy who hired us after I get the money. And then that's it. And then there's a nice little thing, because I let Cicero live after we go back to the Dawnstar Sanctuary, and Cicero shows up again, and we have like this little encounter, and that's kind of cute and stuff. And he'll be like your companion if you don't already have one, but I don't know, I didn't take him, I guess. If all that sounds bad or boring to you though, well, good for you, because you're in luck. When you get captured by Astrid in the beginning and brought into that shack, instead of killing any of the 3 people, you can actually kill Astrid right there. And if you go to a guard afterwards and tell them like, hey, I just killed the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, they'll tell you to go to the Pentalus Octolatus, or however you call them, and they'll hire you to kill the Dark Brotherhood. And you just go and you just murder them all. And then that's it. And that's the quest. And then you go and then you get 3,000 gold, which is nowhere near the 20,000 gold that you get for killing the Emperor, but it's significantly easier. So take that as you will. That's pretty cool. Finally, we've come to the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme. They'll steal your heart and then your wallet, the Thieves Guild. Despite being the best, they're still not fantastic, honestly. It does feature one of the few quests that you can fail, but they'll still let you into the guild no matter what. So when you start off, you kind of got to steal this ring and plant it on someone else. But for some reason, there was this person that was following me and just like kept looking at me. So if I were to do any lock picking, then they'd like tattletale. So then I'd get arrested. So this went on for a while of her just like staring at me. So I eventually had to murder her, and then nobody saw it apparently because they were all looking away and there was no guards or something. So then I was just able to lockpick and then finish the rest of the quest. But yeah, that was just a weird thing that happened, and I don't know why. So I do that, I start the quest, I finish it. Now I gotta go through the Rat Way. What is the Rat Way? Well, the Thieves Guild primarily takes place in Riften, which is like the shitty town. The atmosphere is started off right away when you get into town, and this guard is like, you better give me some money if you want to come in. And you're like, this is a shakedown. What the fuck are you talking about? He's like, don't say it so loud, I'll let you in. So it's like a seedy, really like thievy shit town. So the Thieves Guild, I guess, aren't doing too well. They live in the Rat Way. You go through the Rat Way, which is like the Wat Way. You go through the Rat Way, which is basically like a sewer home for a bunch of people. This is where you find Esben, the dirty trash boy that he is. And there's like a bunch of like people here. There's like some weird encounters of like this dude that has these boxing gloves that do like a lot of damage. And then there's like these 2 guys who, in my headcanon, they're lovers and stuff, but they're just some guys that live down here. So you go, you kill everyone in your way, and then you finally get to the Ragged Flagon, which I think is a fantastic name for like a fantasy bar, in my opinion. You get there, and they're like, you got here, time to prove yourself. So you do they have you do some shakedowns, which is honestly real gang shit right there. Let's threaten some civilians. So you threaten them for protection money, and then they give it to you, and then this is the last time that you have to deal with anybody in the city of Riften for basically the entire game at this point. So you do that, and then they're like, okay, time to get you on some real jobs. Here's the Golden Glow Estate job, which basically means I have to burn you burn down some beehives, and then you gotta get some documents from inside. I just run past the guys on the outside because it's easier. I try to start sneaking around in the inside, but then I remember that, oh yeah, I'm a tank and I can just kill people. So I do that, and then the guy doesn't want to tell me the stuff, so I kill him anyway. It's a lot of killing, and then I get the stuff, and that's it. Once that's done, I am then sent to get this guy arrested by poisoning mead, because at this point we're basically in the Blackbriar's pockets, who are like a crime family kind of thing that's like just into just a bunch of illegal stuff. So they're like, we have a meadery business, so let's get rid of this other meadery business. So we do that, and then get that guy arrested. Honestly, that one's not very much of a... you just fight a bunch of vampire skeevers, which... Okay, yeah, they're still skeevers. It's nothing really important. So once I finish that, they're like, oh, we analyzed the papers that you got from Golden Glow, and like someone's trying to fuck us. And then we're like, okay, so who's trying to fuck us? Well, we got this contact in Solitude. Go talk to him. We talk to him, and he's like, oh, I'm not gonna talk to you unless you get me some booze. And I'm like, okay. I get him the booze, and then he's like, I don't know anything, which is obviously a lie. So I have to end up following him for a good while, and he goes through the East Empire Trading Company, which is a play on the East India Trading Company from history, and that's, you know. So we follow him, and this is actually one of the few, like, actually rewarding stealth sections of the game, because it's actually a stealth section, and as opposed to just, like, a bunch of well-lit corridors that you have to kind of, that you just happen to sneak through until somebody finds you, and then you just kill them anyway. There's actual like shadows and lighting and stuff like that to this. It's good. There's also this dude right here called Snorreed who just sleeps and won't get up. But he'll wake up and say, you're not supposed to be here, but he won't do anything about it, and I love him to death. I will die for that man. Anyway, you go through. I kind of fucked it up a little bit, and I got spotted because of my companion. So I had to end up killing them, but the guy that I was following was far enough ahead that he didn't notice, so it doesn't really matter. I then got to the second portion of this, which is just another dungeon. Quite linear. It's a linear dungeon, so you just go through, kill everyone, and then threaten him, and he's like, I'll tell you what I want to know. And basically, he gives us the name Carlia. And apparently she murdered the previous guild master, Gallius, and she's been on the run for a while, and she's finally making her moves against the guild. So we tell this to the current leader, the current guild leader, Mercer Frey, who definitely isn't sketch at all. You can trust him 100%. He takes us here to kill Carlia, and he betrays us. Oh no, Mercer Frey, don't do that. Carlia saves us, and she tells us Mercer was actually the one that killed the previous guildmaster, and she has some proof. Gallus's journal, but it's written in a language and a cipher that we don't know. So, turns out it's written in Falmore, which they're a blind species, so is it actually written in Snow Elf? I don't know. Whatever. It's written, and, you know, so we gotta go to Markarth and get it and like transcribe this big block, which is basically like what's that big stone called? They have that program named after, what is that stone called? Rosetta Stone. Yeah, it's basically a Rosetta Stone. So we make this is something that I didn't figure out for a long time without looking it up, but you have to get charcoal and paper so that you can make like an imprint of it. It doesn't tell you that, so, you know, whatever. It handholds you for everything else in this game except for that one specific part, so that kind of irks me. So we get that transcribing, and now we can actually know what that says, so then we show it to the guild, and they're like, oh no, where's Mercer? He's not here. Check the coffers. So then they go to check the vault, and then for me, there was this really cool thing where the door was already open. So all of the NPCs were like, we gotta get this door open, but it needs multiple keys. And the door is like wide open, and I walk into the room, and you can see that everything's already gone, but I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, Mercer took everything, so then we're like, okay, we need to go kill Mercer now, I guess. So what does that mean? Well, I gotta go check his house, and there's this dude that guards his house, and he aggroed on me from really far away, like strangely far, so I was just kind of, I didn't even like get super close to the property and he attacked me, which was weird, but you know, go off. Yeah, anyway, I get in, I find his plans, and we're off to go kill him, but before that we have to become nightingales, which he's a nightingale. So nightingales are basically like super ultra thieves that have the blessing of the god Nocturnal, or Nocturne, or however you want to say it. So we have to go get her blessing to kill another nightingale. So all of us become, well, except for Carlia, because she's already one, but we become nightingales. and we get the Nightingale armor, which is actually really good. I would highly recommend just doing this quest just for that armor, because it's fantastic. And now we can follow Mercer and kill him. So we do that, and then I do that, I kill him, and then the room starts flooding. And I forgot what happened when I was playing this, so I was like freaking out. I was like, well, where's the door? Turns out you just have to wait, and then eventually you'll get to a point where you can just hop out. So the reason the guild has been doing so shitty is because I guess Mercer stole this lockpick that like can unlock any door. So we have to return that now. So I gotta go through this whole dungeon and these trials of Nocturne to do that. And that's it. Those are the major quest lines. If you couldn't tell because you hadn't paid up attention in this video, I don't like these stories. They're not very good. They're incredibly simplistic, bordering on boring in some portions. The game isn't story-driven though, so I can't really fault it for that. The point of Skyrim is not to consume a good, thought-provoking story. This game is an engine to explore and discover a world. But when you've already discovered that world, there's no real point to do it again. You already know. You've already gotten your ticket. It's already been redeemed. Unless you play a Bethesda game that you haven't played before, you're not going to get that same sense of wonder. That sense that you get when you exit Helgen for the first time, knowing that you can go anywhere and see anything in this world, is amazing, and it cannot be recreated by another playthrough. That feeling is something that I had similarly when I came out of Vault 111 or exited what fucking vault it was in Fallout 3, but just that feeling of being let loose in the world is something that cannot be recreated when you know what's coming. And the quests they're not interesting enough to warrant more playthroughs. Fallout New Vegas, for example, another Bethesda title. I know it's made by Obsidian, but it's Fallout. It's a Bethesda IP at this point. That has branching stories with complex narratives and actual characters that you can interact with in different ways upon different playthroughs. I mean, even if there are like 3 main endings, I guess, that you can go through with that game, of the Legion, the NCR, and an Independent Vegas, but there are drastically different ways that you can get to those points. And I really think that gives that game its longevity. The reason Skyrim is still played is because it has a very active modding community, and if you're going back and playing Skyrim a second time and you aren't modding it, I really don't think that you'll have as much fun, especially if you've done a very thorough playthrough on your first time around. It is a puddle an ocean wide, 100%. I love Skyrim. This is, at one point, this was my favorite game of all time. But just coming back and playing it again and doing this video, I really realized that there is not much to it. The only real choices that I ever make in this game is what sword am I going to use to kill this Draugr for the 50th time. I love this game, and I have good memories in this world, but I think those memories need to stay memories. I can't relive them. Everyone should play Skyrim. I mean, if you're modding it, then please play it more. Like, there are so many cool and just super talented independent modders that do so much more with the game than the developers ever could do, and it's truly impressive and bordering on, I'd say, beautiful, what those just dedicated fans come up with. And I think that is, play Skyrim the first time just so you have a baseline. Go back, if it's possible, and mod the ever-living hell out of it and make something that is truly different, because man, that's quite the experience. Oh, I totally forgot to mention the glitches. So, okay, I didn't come across a ton in this game, just going through it, because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't trying to break the game or anything, but if you try, you definitely will. So there's only a couple that I came across and actually got footage for. There was one that happened where all of the textures in Whiterun just disappeared. There were no textures in Whiterun. Well, there were textures, but they were super, super low quality for some reason, and I have no idea why. It just happened, and then it went away when I left for some reason. I had the typical horse stuff with Shadowmere of them basically climbing sheer walls, getting stuck in a falling animation for a few seconds, that kind of stuff, you know, horses will be horses kind of thing. There was this one where a companion clipped into me when I was having a serious conversation with General Tullius, which was a little annoying, but I mean, it's just a clipping error. There's also a weird one, like a weird pathing error, where this drunkard kind of just like wandered into the Blades hideout underneath the inn, and he just was just like, can I get a drink? And that was kind of odd. Fundamentally, I mean, the game is broken. I mean, it's been since fixed, but the creation engine is just so bad at this point. It's so outdated. And the reason I say it's outdated, despite the fact that this game came out in 2011, is because Bethesda is still using it. I mean, Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 were made in that engine, and they're still making games in that engine. I mean, they keep updating it, but they haven't done a substantial enough upgrade. They're essentially using the same bones that they made Oblivion with in like 2009. You know, that's crazy. So I really think that they have to completely rework their engine and just fix it, for God's sakes. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting buggy messes. They're bugs. They're not features. They're bugs. There are some of them that are funny. You've probably seen the giants that hit you into the sky. Like, that's kind of funny. But there's so many other things that are just bad and make playing the game difficult. Skyrim is a big game. I didn't even cover the DLCs, which are actually good. The Dawnguard DLC is actually fantastic, and the Dragonborn DLC is pretty good, just giving that whole new area. And I could cover those if you guys want, but I mean, I actually really enjoy those. I feel like I covered the big stuff that basically every player will probably encounter. I know it wasn't as jokey as my Sea of Thieves video, but that's partly because of just how much this was a bigger undertaking than I anticipated when I started it, so sorry about that. We'll see about how this kind of turns out in post, because again, I haven't made the video entirely yet. I'll hopefully try to add some more goofs and gags in there in post, but we'll see. Yeah, if you guys liked it, like, please let me know. I'm doing this as I'm trying to like hone a skill, you know, so if there's something that I can do better, if you didn't like the tone of the video, or if you didn't like kind of, you know, what I was saying and stuff like that, please tell me so that I can, you know, fix that and edit it, and I'm trying to get better, you know, so please point out my mistakes, tell me what I can do better and all that. I would really appreciate it. If there's anything else that you want me to cover, leave it in the comments, you know, please tell me, and I'll get to it, probably. You know, I'll do my best. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it, and thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys soon.